Hey guys, what's up? Kanaka Kona here, and today we're going to be doing a anime streaming service tier list. So talking about the different streaming services was something I intended to originally just make like a full video on, to kind of say what I would recommend you do. But I figure honestly, that's kind of boring. Like it's gonna be a lot of the same, just discussing different prices and that kind of stuff and selection. And on top of that, it's kind of boring to look into everything and get all the information for. So I figured a more interesting way, and a simpler way for me to do this, was simply just to make a tier list of just what I think of them. And it's not going to be the most informed decision because I haven't even necessarily used all these services. Some of them I've only been able to even look at their selection. So yeah, so just listing everything off, we have Amazon Prime Video, Crunchyroll, Funimation, High Dive, Hulu, Netflix, the option to pirate, because I felt that was important to include in here because that's always an alternative at the end of the day, and then Verve. So we'll just go ahead and get started with our first option here is Prime Video. So Prime Video is nice because at the end of the day, to me, its price is basically more or less free already. Because I mean, I'm someone I don't pay my Amazon Prime subscription at all for the interest in Prime Video. I do it purely because I want Amazon Prime as a service. So because of that, I get this added bonus of Prime Video kind of on top of the house to where I can't really complain about it much. So overall, when it comes to pricing, I would say out of the options here besides pirating, it's the best priced because at the end of the day, it's quote unquote, like $10 a month. Although I have Amazon students, I only pay I pay $50 a year. It's great. But even then, I only pay $50 a year, and I intend to use it mostly for Amazon's normal service. So because of that, I would say Prime Video is a solid A choice. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't be an S choice just because it doesn't have a robust selection overall, in my opinion. It has a good selection. At the end of the day, you can get anything on Amazon Prime Video because, even if, it's not on there for free, you will always have the option to buy it. Although sometimes those prices can kind of get a little wacky to the point where they're not necessarily worth the price that it's going to be asking for that. But it nonetheless is always an option, and that is definitely something that is appreciated there. But again, just for what its free content is, I wouldn't put it at an S tier. I would instead leave it at an A tier. But definitely a very solid A tier nonetheless. So, next is Crunchyroll. And Crunchyroll is what I personally use to stream most of my anime. I find that the selection on Crunchyroll is very good overall. There are very few times where I'm disappointed, and it's got a very good amount of stuff. It's got a good choice of seasonal anime that come out on it. It definitely doesn't have everything, don't get me wrong, but it has enough to where I really like it, and the player on Crunchyroll is the best part about it. It's a very well done player. I never have any problems with the player. It just functions perfectly every time. But would I say it's an S tier? Not quite. I pay, $10, or I think I pay $8 a month for Crunchyroll. There's an option to do $10 and you can download stuff, and then $15 and you can also get a store discount. But you also have the option for free with ads, so it does have good different stuff. I originally tried using it free, and I did not have ads originally for some reason. There were just no ads on my stuff, and then one day all of a sudden Crunchyroll started showing me ads, and it was just unbearable because I was so used to using it without ads. So because of that, I would say Crunchyroll is probably also an A tier. I like the selection. I like the player a lot. But there are definitely some times where there's more common anime that I really want to watch. That just kind of, its selection is not as big as some of the other options. Specifically, our next one, Funimation. Funimation, the best part about Funimation is it has anything and everything you can think of. You log on to Funimation, that shit is most likely there. Unless for some reason it's obviously not like Netflix original, Prime originals, or Crunchyroll originals. But besides that, it's on Funimation. It has the biggest selection out of anything, to where it's such a punch in the face that it has to be the one that has the biggest selection, because then it has the absolute shittiest player that you could possibly fucking imagine. I can't think of a good time I've had with the Funimation player. It has been nothing but a frustrating experience with Funimation's player. It constantly breaks. It never remembers the language preferences I want, because I always want it on English subtitles, but Japanese audio. always want as sub, but every single time it'll start out as dub. It doesn't matter what I do. My queue is always all fucked up on Funimation. Like, it just doesn't properly let me add stuff to the queue and everything. And then there's also, like, I was watching through Kimi no Todoke, and it literally just broke my currently watching because for some reason it just can't perceive that is, like, there. That's an anime that it has. Like, there's just so many problems with Funimation as an actual service, and it makes it so frustrating that they have such a good selection of stuff then, because it's like, if you're gonna have such a good selection, why can't you also have it work? Because that's, like, it doesn't matter how good of choices you have if it's just fucking broken, you know? Because of that, I have to put it at D. Because at the end of the day, it's one of those things to where there have literally been scenarios where there's stuff on Funimation that, I pay for Funimation, and I go to Funimation to watch it, and I just have such a frustrating experience watching on Funimation. I will literally just go pirate instead, because it's just like, fuck you, this is so stupid. Like, the Pirates players work better than this, a company owned by fucking Sony, and it's just kind of frustrating. And it's not an expensive service. You can do it free with ads. I think I pay like $10 a month for Funimation. But even, it's like, if I'm paying $10 a month, is it too much to ask that, like, it works, and it works consistently whenever you're owned by, a multi-billion-dollar corporation? So it just, I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way. So, next we are looking at High Dive right here. So, High Dive is a relatively newer streaming service, and the only reason I tried it out was because I wanted to watch a redo of Healer. I had no great reason to start the streaming service, but High Dive seemed to be the only one that was legally streaming it. I try my best, if I can, to go through the proper channels to legally stream stuff. The only time I tend to really illegally stream anything is whenever I don't have the choice, or the choice that I would have is a really shitty choice. Such as, like, with the Kizamonogatari movies, my choice was either I could pirate them or I could pay $10 per movie to rent on Amazon Prime Video. So I definitely pirated those. But yeah, overall, I think High Dive, what it lacks in overall selection, it does make up, and it has very good choices. It does have some original anime. It's a good functioning service. It has, like, I like the fact that you can actually change the color of your subtitles. You can do it as, white with black borders. You can do it as yellow with white borders, yellow with black. But, like, there's just a ton of stuff about the player and High Dive is really nice as well. To where one of the things that I like the most, it's a very small feature, but it's the fact that if you're watching an anime halfway through and it's on you're currently watching, there's actually a button where you can just click it and it says stop watching, and it'll take you off you're currently watching. That's one of the things that I never like about Funimation as well, is if I ever drop a show, I have to, like, go to the last episode and, like, make it watch through the episode, and then half the time it, like, thinks, if I don't watch it all the way to the very last second, it'll be like, no, you're still currently watching this, you have 13 seconds left, come back and finish that part. It's like, fuck you. No, I'm done with it. Why? But High Dive, it's lovely that you could do that. The queue on High Dive is a little annoying because for some reason it maxes out at 15 shows, because I think I put more than 15 shows, and they're still technically on my queue, but they're, like, kind of pushed off to the edge to where I can't see them, and the only way I can see them is by taking other stuff off my queue, which is kind of wacky. But overall, especially considering it's $5, I would actually put it at a B tier. Because for $5, you may not get the most robust selection, but you get a very good player as well as a good enough selection to where, like, whenever you have other streaming services, High Dive does overlap a lot. But if you were to say, like, just get one streaming service, High Dive would be a great streaming service to start out with, because, it's got somewhere in the range of, like, 300 shows. They're not all the best, don't get me wrong, but it's about 300 shows. You can watch through what it's got on High Dive. You're only paying $5 a month, and then you can move on to stuff with bigger and more robust selection, and you'll have a very good experience overall. So I like High Dive personally. I've had nothing but good experiences with it. There was one time High Dive went out for like an hour whenever there was supposed to be a new episode of Redo of Healer, but that wasn't even that bad, and it had to do, there was flooding in Houston, which apparently High Dive is based in Houston, so I couldn't really get too upset with them over that. So overall, big fan of High Dive. The price is definitely the best part about High Dive. So next, we're looking at Hulu. Hulu, I haven't really used personally much, but I've seen the anime selection on there. So I can't really say much about the player or anything. I have used it free with ads before, and actually I can't say that about the player because I did watch, I believe it was all of Ben 10 on Hulu. which I had no problems with the player. Anime selection on here, my only problem with it is it's just like it's a great selection for people if you're like not an avid anime watcher, right? Like if you're just kind of getting into anime, it's got a lot of like the more popular stuff. But if you're already like a relatively avid anime watcher, there's nothing really unique on Hulu that's there for you. Like you're not gonna get anything new or original that you can't find anywhere else. They don't really do any like currently airing simulcast anime. So it's just kind of like I would put it at a C because of that. It just, it's nothing special. There's no originals on there. It's just nothing to really get you hyped as an anime specific viewer for Hulu. But if you're a general viewer, or like you like to watch a lot of other stuff besides anime, like at this point, I basically only watch anime. I don't watch very many other shows besides whatever comes out on Disney Plus every now and again. But if you're someone who actually like pursues a lot of other stuff, it's a great option. So, yeah. Next, we're looking at Netflix. So Netflix, I can easily just throw right in the B tier. Netflix is great because it has a lot of originals. So even if those originals can be very hit or miss, because, you have stuff like, I haven't seen it yet, but Beastars, highly acclaimed, but then you get a lot of just really mediocre shit when you kind of look at it. They do a good amount of 3D animation, which is kind of unfortunate on the Netflix originals. I kind of wish more of what they made would be 2D animated. Like, it just feels like a higher percentage than most other places are 3D animated. But they have also had some, like, good breakout hits on there. Obviously, there's Beastars, Kakaguri, Seven Deadly Sins, although, the newer seasons of Seven Deadly Sins is not very good, but I don't think that's Netflix's fault. That's more the studio. But yeah, overall, I would say, and the nice thing about Netflix is it's not like you're paying only for anime. And on top of that, I think a majority of people that would use Netflix, like me, are using someone else's account. So for me, Netflix is more or less free. I'm not paying anything for Netflix. So it's just a good overall service. It's nice that you can make your own profile and everything. And they continue to add like good anime. Like I know Bunny Girl Senpai got added recently. So it's basically like Hulu, but better. So like if you're someone who's not super big into anime, you can get value out of Netflix. But also if you're someone who is big in anime, you can still get value out of Netflix. So it's something that I don't use it a ton, but it does still, and obviously I'm watching Neon Genesis on there. It's the only place that I know where I can legally stream the main series. It's got good selection, good diversity, and it's got a lot of other purposes to it as well. So next, we're gonna go ahead and do Verve before we do Pirate. Verve is nothing that I've ever personally used before. I looked at it and it basically was like Crunchyroll, but without the option of doing free with ads. No Crunchyroll store or anything either. And yeah, because of that, I would put it at a C tier because it's literally just Crunchyroll, but and it's also more expensive. Like Crunchyroll has an option for $8 if you just want to stream anime, versus Verve is $10. That's all they have. They seem to only have a $10 plan from what I could see. And because of that, it's kind of like if I can get the same selection for the most part on Crunchyroll for $8. Why would I go to Verve for $10 whenever I can, then if I want to do $10, I can go to Crunchyroll and get the option to also download shows and stuff. And I already know Crunchyroll's a good service. Like, to me, there's no reason to really go to Verve. Verve, to me, the only reason I would ever use Verve is, like, I know they sponsor a lot of people on YouTube, so if I ever got a Verve sponsorship, that's the only time you'll catch me watching on Verve, or saying anything about it that is, like, good. Overall, there's no reason, in my opinion, not to use Crunchyroll over Verve. So finally, we have the pirating option. So, I'm someone who, I personally am not a big fan of pirating. I would like to buy the service if I can, or use it through a legal way. So yeah, I would prefer to just legally go through whatever options I have. But, nonetheless, that doesn't change the fact that there are times whenever you're going to have to pirate, because there are some times where there's just shows that you can't find. Stuff like Monster, I cannot find Monster on any streaming service, and I eventually do plan to watch that. I mean, it's supposed to be a very, very good show, and nothing seems to have it. I remember when I was watching, way back in the day, Birdie the Mighty Decode. No streaming service had Birdie the Mighty Decode, and nothing has it now either, to where if I want to go back and rewatch it, which I do want to at some point because it's been a long time, I don't really have any way to go about that. So because of that, it the good part about pirating is it's free, and you have like literally unlimited selection. It has everything you can think of. And I pirate stuff relatively often because when it comes to stuff like the Attack on Titan OVAs, there's no way to legally watch that without buying the DVDs. And I do own the DVDs in all fairness, but even then it's like I don't want to open those because they're sealed, and I like having them sealed. So pirating would go at an A tier because I don't want to put it on an S tier because at the end of the day it's illegal, and there's a reason it's illegal. It's not something you're supposed to do, and it's not something I'm a huge fan of. Again, I try to avoid pirating if I can, but at the end of the day, there are times when you have to pirate, and there's a good reason. So, yeah. Overall, that's everything. There was nothing that I would put at an F tier, and there's nothing I would put at an S tier. S tier is because every streaming service has its downside. There's no perfect streaming service. There's nothing to where I have no problems with the streaming service at all. There's always something that kind of has a pullback to it, and then also there's no F tier in my opinion because at the end of the day, there's no like absolute completely dog shit, nothing good about a streaming service either. So every streaming service has got its ups and downs, some more than others. So yeah, hope you guys like this list. I doubt you guys are gonna be making any choices based on where you should watch, based on what I have to say. But let me know what do you use down below. How I personally use Crunchyroll, Prime Video, Netflix, High Dive, and Funimation. I go through a lot of different stuff. Some of them I pay for, some of them I don't, through my family and stuff. So, but let me know what you use down below, and I hope you guys enjoyed. So, see ya.